Do you ever notice how much time you spend liking other people? You like other people's posts on social media. You like your friends. You think they're fun. You like hanging out with them. You like hanging out with some family members. And then we don't like ourselves. Yet we spend all this time liking other people. Why is that? You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode 174.
A podcast that breaks it down so you can break the cycle for good. Now, your host, Tara Rama, but you can call her T.
A lot of people don't really like themselves. Some of the big ways you can tell, and I think there's one big obvious way, is if they're a disgruntled person, cranky all the time and yelling at everybody, kind of that stereotype that goes in your head of a grumpy person. Probably people that are like that, most of them probably don't really like themselves. And then if we're not really grumpy and we like other people, we like hanging out with people, but yet we still tend to not really like ourselves or find all these faults we have with ourselves. In the previous episode, I talked about our inner critic. We don't tend to like ourselves. Every once in a while, I like my post on social media. Not because I want it to have a certain number. I decided, why not? Why not like some content I created? And I'm going to flip that question around. What's the reason for disliking yourself? For putting a lot of negativity and putting the perspective on all of your flaws. And I noticed this among my South Asian culture and growing up in the United States, is that there is this underlying thing, depending on each person, that we need to use some sort of negative reinforcement to achieve a goal. Now, goal, I don't mean like a hard, fast goal, but it can be to even be the type of person we are in life. It doesn't necessarily need to be financial, or it could be losing weight, some kind of goal like that, or improving our parenting skills, even stop yelling. That's a common one, and stop yelling. We need to berate ourselves, give us that negative reinforcement, and then we will achieve it. And that can work for the short term. And I've mentioned this before. It is because you're using this kind of last minute willpower, or you're hanging on to something and you're pushing. It's a pushing and it doesn't feel very good. And it's a whole lot of resistance. It's a whole lot of negative emotion to get something done. And eventually, in a lot of people, it can lead to some form of burnout. And it can look very different for different people. Burnout doesn't necessarily mean that all of a sudden you stop doing what you're doing. It could affect your life in different areas. And the way I kind of see it is sometimes we keep going and using this negative reinforcement, and then we realize we don't have the relationships we want. Maybe we don't even have a committed relationship. We want that committed relationship, but yet we're unable to have one. Or it could impact our finances, or it can impact our health, that's the burnout that often a lot of times people think about. But there's other kinds of burnout somewhere in one part of our life. It gives from using this dislike of ourselves, looking at our flaws to get us to where we want to be. And so when I have had this conversation with different people, there is a belief, and almost a belief as if it's a fact. When I hear people talk about this, of course you need to look at your flaws so that you can be better. Of course you need to look at all of the things, focus on that feedback you got at your work evaluation so you can get that next promotion. Yes, I'm talking from experience. That was me. Look at that one thing that you're doing wrong at work and negate the 5 things your supervisor said that you're doing well so that you can get that promotion. And for me, I finally realized that it actually can work, and then it doesn't work eventually. And then you end up in a in another big problem in your life. And you're like, well, I pushed through this and I got here, and then something else falls apart. So in essence, it didn't really work. But there was never a consideration for why can't you like yourself and go after anything you want. You can like yourself and stop yelling. You can like yourself, break any cycle you want to. You can still get the promotion. You can still lose the weight and like yourself. One of my favorite things that I learned when I got certified as a coach that I have mentioned many times is you can't hate yourself to love. So you're hate, and all of a sudden you're going to like yourself when you achieve something, when you're thinner, when you have more money, when your kids are well behaved. You're going to be likable in a certain moment. And if you're an adult, you can see that you have already achieved something. Now, if you're having a hard time seeing that you haven't achieved it, you have achieved something. There are things that now in your life that you have created. And do you like yourself more in abundance? Because now you have the house, or now you have the kids, or now you live where you want, or have the job that you want, or the friends that you want, the relationship you want, the degree that you want, the education you want. When you achieved all of those things, then did you like yourself more? And my guess is no, because after getting several degrees, I didn't like myself more. After getting a really great job, I didn't like myself more. After achieving certain goals, after achieving certain language goals, I didn't like myself more. And that's related very much to substituting an action for how we're feeling. And I talk about this in the episode called Action Swapping, where we think that going about an action, which is going after something, achieving something, is going to change how we feel. And the way we feel is not coming from the outside world. This action that we're taking, it's coming internally from what our brain tells us, from the rhetoric that has all that talk that our brain has. That's where our emotions are coming from. And so the emotion is still going to be there no matter how many things we achieve, no matter how many goals, races we win, promotions we get. That feeling is still going to be there. And that whole time that you are going after things in your life, you're not liking yourself. And so all I want you to consider is, what about liking yourself and going after that? I mean, it never occurred to me that I can like myself and improve. I can like myself and stop yelling. In fact, I didn't stop yelling until I started liking myself, until I stopped beating up myself every time I yelled at my family. It didn't click because I was literally bathing in a whole bunch of shame and guilt, picking apart and then going to that place of I'm a terrible person. I yelled at them, which is the thing that I did that I didn't want to be doing. And that's the only thing. But then I extrapolated to I'm a terrible person, and then went down this cycle, and it never got me to understanding my anger and figuring out why. And today I feel the guilt after it. I move through it, and then I go and I investigate it, and then I come back to I'm still an okay person, and I can do this, and I can understand my anger, and I can understand it enough to not take that action that I've been taking. It opens up my eyes to something that I haven't uncovered. So when I yell now, it like uncovers something in my subconscious that I wasn't aware of. And I said, great, now I'm aware of this belief that I've been holding on to. And that's going to move you forward, because I would still be yelling and resisting and feeling awful and yelling and doing the things that I exactly didn't want to be doing, like eating too much stuff, right? Because when you're beating up yourself, are you really going to the gym? No. It's like chocolate. There you are. I know where you are in the pantry. So you're doing other actions also that you then are going to beat yourself up later. So all I want you to do is just consider that you can like yourself and do all the things that you want to do. In fact, It's more fun that way. You can still like yourself. You can still mess up. You're going to mess up. You're going to fail and still like yourself for failing because you continued and you got back up. That's a reason to like yourself. Hey, I failed. Now I'm going to go after this. Hey, guess what? I yelled this morning. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to learn from it. Because guess what? You like your friends. You like your family members. And they're probably having some sort of inner critic where they don't like themselves, but you like them. And if your friend said to you, hey, I don't really like myself, you'd be like, what? You're a great friend. I mean, I look at all my friends like that. If they tell me that they're like feeling awful, I let them have their space. But in my head, I'm like, you're not a terrible person. I see you as this brave person that keeps going after something. You have not failed. In my mind, that's exactly what I think of the other person. Yet in that moment when they're feeling their pain, they're beating up themselves. And the other person's having a totally different opinion about it. And the question is, can you have that same opinion that your friend has about you? It's okay to like yourself and go after all of the things that you want. In fact, it's a necessity. That's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.